Sometimes love, when left unchecked, can blur into sacrifice so deep it forgets where dignity begins. And sometimes, the people we give everything to are the very ones who teach us how much a boundary is worth. Angela Carter believed she had already weathered the worst storm life could throw at her. The day the foreman called from the steel plant, his voice cracked with sorrow, she knew her world had shifted forever. A collapsed scaffolding had stolen Edward Carter, husband, father, provider, and left Angela with 2 children, 1 mortgage, and a heart hollowed by grief. That was 8 years ago. In those years, she had learned how to stretch paychecks from the county hospital where she worked double shifts as a nurse's aide. She learned how to fix a leaky faucet, how to negotiate with electric companies, how to fall asleep in the quiet ache of loneliness. Most of all, she learned how to keep going, because Marcus and Danielle depended on her. But what Angela hadn't learned was how to say no to Marcus. He arrived on a Wednesday evening, the kind of evening where autumn pressed early darkness against the windows and the smell of fried chicken lingered in the kitchen. Danielle had been upstairs, headphones on, working on her graduate school application. Angela had just slipped her feet out of aching shoes when she heard the slam of the front door. "Ma," Marcus called, his voice heavy with the false bravado she had come to recognize. Angela met him in the living room. At 28, Marcus still carried the boyish charm of his father, the squared shoulders, the easy smile, but beneath it lay something sharper, restless. He wore a tailored jacket too expensive for a man without steady income, and in his hand was a leather folder. "Marcus," she said softly, setting aside the mug of tea she had been nursing. "What's wrong?" He didn't answer right away. He paced, thumb tapping against the folder, jaw clenched. Finally, he blurted it out the way a child blurts out a broken vase. "I need your help, Ma, bad." Angela's stomach tightened. "What kind of help?" He handed her the folder. Inside were bank statements, promissory notes, numbers written in red ink that made her chest constrict. She read the figure twice before her eyes could accept it. $250,000. Her hands trembled. "Marcus, what is this?" "An investment," he muttered. "It was supposed to double in a year. Real estate, hot market. But the partner bailed, and the creditors are breathing down my neck." Angela closed the folder slowly, as if that could make the numbers disappear. $250,000. "Marcus, that's—" She stopped herself. That was everything she had saved from Edward's insurance, from years of double shifts, from selling the second car and canceling vacations. It was her safety net, her retirement, her medicine for when her body could no longer lift patients from hospital beds. Marcus sat down across from her, his knee bouncing. "I wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. They want the money by the end of the month. These aren't the kind of people you keep waiting." Angela swallowed hard. She remembered Edward's funeral, Marcus's hand gripping hers, the boy promising he'd take care of his little sister. Where had that boy gone? "Marcus, I can't," her voice cracked. "That's all I have." He leaned forward, eyes sharp, almost pleading but edged with something darker. "You have the house, it's paid off. You don't need much, Danielle's grown, you'll still have enough to live on. Come on, Ma, you know I'll pay you back. You just need to cover me until I'm back on my feet." The words pierced her. "You don't need much." As if a lifetime of scraping by, of patching shoes and skipping dinners, meant she deserved nothing better in her final years. From upstairs, Danielle's footsteps creaked. She appeared in the doorway, her face framed by long braids, her eyes immediately suspicious. "What's going on?" Angela froze. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Nothing you need to worry about," he said quickly. Danielle crossed her arms. "That's a lie. You only come home with a folder when you've screwed something up." "Danielle," Angela warned softly. "No, Ma, you know I'm right. He's here asking for money again, isn't he?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "Stay out of it, Danny. This is between me and Mom." Danielle's eyes flashed. "It's never just between you and Mom. Every time you come with your problems, she's the one who pays." And who do you think has to pick up the pieces when she works herself half to death to cover your mess? Me. I see her blood pressure going up, her back hurting, her hands shaking at night. Angela lifted a hand. That's enough. But Danielle's voice broke, the dam of years of resentment spilling over. She already gave everything to Dad. And now you're turning into him, always taking, never giving. The words hung in the air, heavy, cruel, true. Marcus's face darkened. He stood, towering over his sister. Don't you dare compare me to him. Danielle didn't flinch. Then prove it, stop using her. Angela's heart thudded painfully. She stepped between them, her palms raised. Both of you, please. The room fell silent, save for the ticking clock on the mantel. Angela looked from her son to her daughter, her two pieces of Edward left in the world, and felt pulled apart. I'll think about it, she whispered at last, her voice barely audible. Marcus exhaled in relief, mistaking her words for surrender. He hugged her stiffly, kissed her cheek, and murmured, "You won't regret it." Then he left, the sound of his car tires screeching into the night. Danielle stared at her mother, tears glistening in her eyes. Don't do it, Ma, please don't. Angela sank into the couch, the folder heavy on her lap. She wanted to tell Danielle she was right, that she was tired of being the family's lifeline. But when she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus at 6 years old, holding her hand at the playground, calling her his hero. How could a mother stop being a hero to her child? Angela pressed her hands against her face. Love was supposed to be her strength, yet here it felt like her undoing. And in that moment, though she didn't know it yet, the ruin had already begun. Angela didn't sleep that night. The folder lay unopened on her nightstand, a shadow in the dim lamp glow. Every time she closed her eyes, the number returned, $250,000, looming like a storm cloud above her bed. She remembered Edward's hands, rough from steel beams, promising her safety. She remembered the first years after he died, when she told herself that every sacrifice was for Marcus and Danielle. But this was different. By morning, her head ached from restless thoughts. The smell of coffee drifted from the kitchen. Danielle was up early as usual. Angela tied her robe tighter and shuffled down the hallway. Danielle sat at the table, textbooks open, laptop glowing. She looked up at her mother with concern. You didn't sleep, Danielle said quietly. Angela poured herself coffee, black and bitter. Too much on my mind. Marcus, Danielle replied flatly. Angela wanted to protest, to shield her daughter from the weight of it, but the look in Danielle's eyes made denial impossible. Your brother's in trouble, Angela said. He needs help. Danielle slammed her pen onto the table. He always needs help, and it's always you who pays the price. Danielle? No, Ma, listen. Danielle leaned forward, her voice shaking with urgency. You've spent your whole life saving people. Dad, when he spent his paycheck before it cleared. Marcus, when he dropped out of college and came home broke. Even me, when I messed up my first semester, you worked overtime just to keep me enrolled. But this is too big. You can't fix it. Angela stirred her coffee slowly, watching the dark swirl. He's my son. Danielle's eyes softened. And I'm your daughter. Do I matter less because I don't ask you for money? The question pierced Angela like a needle. Danielle had never demanded, never shouted, never blamed. She had carried her own weight, quietly, determinedly. And in her silence, perhaps Angela had taken her for granted. Before Angela could answer, the front door creaked open. Marcus stepped inside without knocking, his tie loosened, his face drawn. Morning, he muttered, setting his phone on the counter. Angela straightened. Marcus, you should have called. I couldn't sleep, he said, pouring himself a cup of coffee. We need to talk. Danielle rolled her eyes. Of course. Marcus ignored her. He pulled out a chair and sat, tapping his fingers against the table. They gave me a deadline. End of the month, I can't stall them any longer. I need you to transfer the money this week. Angela's heart pounded. Marcus, that's everything I have. I'll pay it back, he said quickly. You know I will. Danielle let out a sharp laugh. When? You've been saying that for 10 years. Marcus turned on her, his voice sharp. "Stay out of it, Danny, you don't understand." "I understand perfectly," she snapped. "You gamble with your life and expect Mom to cover the bet. And she does every single time. You're draining her dry." Angela raised her hands. "Stop it, both of you." But Marcus leaned across the table, his tone hard. "Mom, you have the money, you're not living fancy, you don't need it. Think of it as protecting your family. These men, they're not bankers. They don't send polite reminders. They break things, they hurt people." Angela's chest tightened. "Marcus, who are these men?" He looked away. "It doesn't matter. What matters is if I don't pay, they'll come looking. For me, for you, for Danielle." Danielle gasped. "You dragged us into this?" Marcus slammed his palm against the table. "Don't act like I wanted this. I was trying to build something for us. A business, a future. But partners bailed, markets collapsed. You think I asked for this?" Angela's voice shook. "Then why bring it to me?" "Because you're all I have," Marcus said, his tone shifting suddenly, softer, almost childlike. "You're my mother. You always said you'd do anything for me." The words curled around Angela's heart, familiar, dangerous. They were Edward's words once, spoken in arguments that ended with her apologizing though she'd done nothing wrong. Family means sacrifice, Angie. She had lived by that creed, and now Marcus wielded it like a weapon. Danielle stood, trembling with rage. "You're manipulating her, just like Dad did. You don't see her as a person, you see her as a wallet." Marcus's face hardened. "Watch your mouth." Angela's hands shook as she set down her mug. "Enough." Her voice came out louder than she intended, startling both children. "I will think about it." Marcus exhaled in relief. "Thank you." He kissed her forehead, then left as suddenly as he came. The silence afterward was crushing. Danielle sat back down, tears pooling in her eyes. "Ma," she whispered, "if you give him that money, you'll lose everything. Your savings, your house, your health. And for what? So he can throw it away again." Angela looked at her daughter, seeing both the plea and the fear in her face. She wanted to answer, to promise she'd be strong, but her words caught in her throat. All she could do was hold Danielle's hand as the morning sun spilled across the kitchen table, heavy with the knowledge that whatever decision she made would break someone she loved. The phone rang late that afternoon, just as Angela had settled into her armchair, her mind still heavy from the morning's battle. She glanced at the screen and hesitated. The name felt like a ghost from another life. Gloria Evans. It had been years since they'd spoken, the kind of friendship that survives more in memory than in practice. Gloria had been Angela's roommate in nursing school before life diverted them down different paths. Angela left school to marry Edward, while Gloria had finished law school and built a reputation as one of Boston's fiercest advocates for women's rights. Angela answered, her voice tentative. "Gloria?" "Angie," came the warm but purposeful reply. "I heard from a mutual friend that you're still at St. Mary's Hospital. I was in town for a case and thought of you. How are you?" The question, simple as it was, unraveled Angela. She wanted to say fine, to tuck the truth behind practiced smiles. Instead, voice cracked. I don't know." There was silence on the line, then Gloria's steady voice. "Where are you? I'll come by." An hour later, Angela opened the door to find Gloria standing there in a sharp navy suit, heels clicking against the porch. Her hair, now silver at the temples, framed a face marked not by time's cruelty but by conviction. She embraced Angela firmly, the kind of hug that remembered who you used to be. Inside, over steaming cups of tea, Angela spilled everything: the accident that took Edward, the years of scraping by, the endless sacrifices, and now Marcus's demand. As she spoke, her hands trembled, but Gloria's eyes never wavered. When Angela finally finished, Gloria set her cup down with a clink. "Angie, do you hear yourself? You've been bled dry for decades. First Edward, now Marcus. Different men, same pattern." Angela bristled. "He's my son." Gloria leaned in, her voice low but firm. "Yes, and you're his mother, not his bank. There's a difference. One gives life, the other gets drained until nothing's left. The words stung. Angela looked away to the framed photos on the mantel, Marcus at his graduation, Danielle with her first violin. She thought of the nights she worked until her legs gave out, the mornings she woke to swollen fingers and aching joints. Gloria followed her gaze. You've raised 2 children almost on your own. That's a legacy, Angie. But what kind of example are you leaving if you teach them that love means endless sacrifice, that being a mother means erasing yourself? Angela's throat tightened. I don't know how to stop. Gloria softened, reaching across the table to take her hand. You stop by remembering you're worth something. You stop by setting a boundary. And sometimes, Angie, you stop by walking away. The suggestion hit like cold water. Walk away from Marcus, from the boy she had cradled, the man she had tried so desperately to save. I can't abandon him, Angela whispered. No, Gloria said, her tone gentler now, but you can refuse to abandon yourself. For a long time, Angela said nothing. The clock ticked steadily, the old house groaning with the weight of years. Finally, she spoke, her voice small. What if he hates me? Gloria squeezed her hand. Then maybe hate is better than being destroyed. Sometimes love, the way he's using it, is just another form of control. Angela blinked back tears. She wanted to protest, to argue. But deep down, she knew Gloria was right. For years, she had mistaken manipulation for love, obligation for devotion. As Gloria stood to leave, she pulled Angela into another embrace. You call me day or night if you need help. I mean it. You don't have to face this alone. When the door closed behind her friend, Angela sank into her chair. The house was quiet, but Gloria's words echoed in her ears. Not his bank, not his bank. Angela stared at the folder still sitting on the coffee table. For the first time, she let herself imagine a different ending. Not one where she gave in again, but one where she finally said no. The thought terrified her. And yet, somewhere deep within, it also sparked the faintest flicker of relief. The following week at St. Mary's Hospital, Angela was folding linens in the supply room when the intercom buzzed her name. Mrs. Carter, room 212, patient request. Angela wiped her hands on her scrubs and made her way down the hallway, her steps steady though her back throbbed from the morning's rounds. Room 212 was one of the private suites, usually reserved for wealthier patients. She knocked gently and entered. Inside, a tall man with thinning gray hair sat upright in bed, his chest rising with the slow discipline of someone recovering from surgery. His eyes, sharp and blue, followed her as she entered. Mrs. Carter, he asked. That's me, she said, offering a professional smile. I'm William Anderson. His voice was deep, controlled, yet softened by age. You've been helping the staff care for me since I came in. I wanted to thank you personally. Angela set the fresh linens on a chair. No thanks needed, it's my job. Maybe so, William said, studying her carefully. But I've been in more hospitals than I care to count. Most people do their job, you do more. Angela flushed, embarrassed. It's just habit. I believe people heal better when they feel cared for. A small smile tugged at his lips. That explains why you remind me of my late wife. She never let a soul leave her house hungry. Angela busied herself adjusting his Roman IV stand. Compliments unsettled her. They scraped against years of being overlooked. You work long hours? William asked. Too long, Angela admitted with a tired laugh. But it keeps the lights on. William tilted his head. And the children grown? The question was simple, but it cut. Angela hesitated before answering. Yes, my daughter's in graduate school. My son, well, he's finding his way. William's eyes lingered on her face as though he could see past the words to the weight behind them. You carry a lot, he said quietly. Angela swallowed hard. She wasn't sure why, but the kindness in his tone threatened to unravel her composure. She nodded politely and excused herself before her voice betrayed her. Over the next several days, William noticed her again and again. When she thought he was asleep, he'd watch her carefully fold his blankets or adjust the blinds so the morning sun didn't sting his eyes. Once, when she bent to pick up a dropped pen, he said, "You move like someone who hasn't sat down in weeks." She chuckled despite herself. Feels that way sometimes. When his discharge day arrived, Angela wheeled him down to the lobby herself. He handed her an envelope as she prepared to leave him at the car waiting outside. "I don't accept tips," Angela said quickly, trying to give it back. "This isn't a tip," William said firmly. "It's a note. Please open it later." Confused, she slipped it into her pocket. Hours later at home, she unfolded the crisp stationery. "Mrs. Carter, in you I see a woman who gives without asking, who shoulders burdens without complaint. The world has not been kind, yet you remain kind to the world. If you ever need help, any help at all, please do not hesitate to call me. Consider it not charity, but respect for what you've already endured. William Anderson." Angela sat at her kitchen table, the letter trembling in her hands. Respect. It was such a simple word, but one she realized she hadn't felt in years. Not from Edward, not from Marcus. Certainly not from the creditors who now circled her family like vultures. She tucked the letter back into the envelope, torn between gratitude and fear. People didn't offer help without expecting something in return. That had been Edward's lesson. Every favor had strings, every gift a hidden cost. And yet, something about William's words felt different. Not demand, not manipulation, just recognition. Danielle found her at the table later that evening. "What's that?" Angela shook her head. "Nothing, just a letter." Danielle picked up the envelope, scanning the name. "William Anderson, the developer, he's worth like millions." Angela stiffened. "How do you know that?" Danielle raised a brow. "Google exists, Ma. Did he offer you money?" "No," Angela said quickly, though the truth itched beneath her skin. "Just kindness." Danielle studied her for a moment, then sighed. "Well, maybe it's time someone showed you some." Angela pressed the envelope to her chest after her daughter left the room. She wasn't sure what scared her more, that she might need William's help one day, or that she already wanted to accept it. The envelope from William still sat on the counter 2 days later, unopened again, though Angela had read the letter at least 10 times. She didn't know whether to tuck it into a drawer or burn it in the sink. Every time her eyes brushed across her name written in his steady hand, something inside her tightened, a mixture of shame and possibility. It was Saturday morning when the knock came at her door. Not Marcus this time. When Angela opened it, Gloria stood there, sunglasses perched on her head, a thick manila folder tucked under her arm. "You said I could come any time," Gloria said, brushing past her into the kitchen. "So I came." Angela blinked. "What's that?" Gloria set the folder on the table and tapped it. "Research. I wanted to understand what your son is mixed up in." Angela's stomach knotted. "Gloria, you shouldn't." "Angie, please, you're my friend, and your silence is only feeding his chaos." With a sigh, Angela sat down. Gloria opened the folder. Inside were printouts of public records, property deeds, even police blotters. "This isn't just an investment gone wrong," Gloria began. "Marcus partnered with a company called Eastline Holdings. On paper, it's real estate development. In reality, it's a shell for money laundering. Their other partners have criminal records as long as my arm." Angela covered her mouth. "Lord, no." Gloria slid a paper across the table. "One of the men, Vincent Ruiz, was indicted 2 years ago for loan sharking. Brutal enforcer, the kind who doesn't knock politely when you owe." Angela's hands trembled as she stared at the page. A grainy mugshot of a man with cold eyes glared up at her. "That's who Marcus is tangled with," Gloria said firmly. "This isn't just debt, Angie. It's danger, for him, for you, for Danielle." Angela felt the air leave her lungs. She thought of Marcus's words, "They're not bankers, Mom. They're dangerous people." She had dismissed it as exaggeration. But now the truth was staring at her in black and white. I raised him better than this, Angela whispered. Did you? Gloria's tone wasn't cruel, just sharp with honesty. Or did you raise him to believe you'd always rescue him, no matter the cost? Angela flinched as if struck. She wanted to argue, but her mind reached for memories instead. The times Marcus came home broke, the times she covered his bills, the times Edward had demanded she just trust him with money that never came back. Gloria softened, reaching for her hand. I'm not saying you failed as a mother. I'm saying he's learned a pattern, and right now he's playing it to the end. Angela's eyes welled. What do I do? Gloria leaned back. First, you don't give him that money. Second, you protect yourself and Danielle, because if Ruiz and his people come looking, they won't care that you're innocent. Angela pressed her palms together, whispering a prayer under her breath. God help me. Just then, the sound of a car pulling up outside made both women tense. Angela moved to the window. Marcus's SUV sat crooked in the driveway, engine still running. Gloria's jaw set. Stay behind me. The door burst open before Angela could reach it. Marcus strode in, eyes wild, face flushed. He froze when he saw Gloria at the table. What's this? He snapped. Gloria closed the folder calmly. Reality, Marcus, sit down. He bristled. You've been digging into my business. Angela's voice shook. Marcus, please just explain. He ran a hand through his hair. You don't get it, Ma. I was building something big. We were supposed to flip properties, make real money. But when the market stalled, Ruiz started calling in the loans. He doesn't wait. He doesn't forgive. Then why involve them at all? Angela cried. Because no bank would give me a shot. Marcus shouted back. They don't lend to guys like me, but Ruiz did, and now if I don't pay, he'll take everything. He'll come here, he'll take this house. Angela's knees weakened. She gripped the back of a chair to stay upright. Gloria stood, her voice iron. He won't take this house if you don't let him, but Marcus, you're dragging your mother into a pit she doesn't deserve. She's done paying for men's mistakes. Marcus's eyes darkened. You think you can tell me about family? She's my mother. She owes me. Angela's voice broke. No, Marcus, I don't owe you. I gave you life. That was the gift. The rest was choice. For the first time, Marcus faltered. His mouth opened, then shut. A flicker of guilt crossed his face before pride buried it. He snatched the folder off the table, crumpled the papers in his fist, and stormed out. The engine roared, gravel spitting as the SUV tore away. The silence left behind was suffocating. Angela sank into a chair, her body trembling. Gloria exhaled. You see now, Angie, this isn't just about money, it's survival. Angela nodded slowly, her face pale. For the first time in her life, she wondered if the only way to save Marcus was to let him fall. The house felt different after Marcus stormed out. Quieter, but not with peace, more like the silence that follows a slammed door when the air still trembles with anger. Angela sat at the kitchen table long after Gloria had gone, staring at the empty mug in front of her. Her hands were clasped so tightly her knuckles ached. Her mind replayed Marcus's words over and over. She's my mother. She owes me. No matter how she turned it, it cut the same way. Owes him. After decades of scraped knuckles and double shifts, of sleepless nights and skipped meals, after raising him on her own since Edward's accident, the thought made her chest tighten with a grief deeper than death itself, because death had taken Edward, but entitlement had taken Marcus. Danielle came down the stairs cautiously, as if approaching a wounded animal. Is he gone? Angela nodded, unable to find her voice. Her daughter sat across from her, eyes red but dry. Ma, I meant what I said earlier. If you give him that money, we'll lose everything, and it won't even save him. Those men, Ruiz and whoever else, Marcus can't pay them back no matter what you do. Angela swallowed, her throat raw. He's still my boy. Danielle leaned forward, her voice softer now. I know, but he's not a boy anymore. And you're not just his mother, you're still you. Don't forget that. Angela looked at her daughter then, really looked, and saw in Danielle's face not only frustration but fear. Fear that her mother would disappear under the weight of Marcus's demands, just as she had under Edward's. That night, Angela lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Every creak of the house made her jump, imagining Ruiz's men breaking down the door. She thought of the envelope from William still sitting on the counter. She thought of Gloria's warning, sometimes you stop by walking away. By dawn, exhaustion finally broke her resolve. She rose, dressed, and reached for the phone. Her fingers hovered over the keypad before dialing. "Mrs. Carter." The voice on the other end was warm, surprised. "Mr. Anderson," Angela said quietly, her voice trembling. "It's Angela. I don't know why I'm calling." There was a pause, then his steady reply, "Maybe because you need help." Tears welled in her eyes, though she hadn't admitted it aloud. "I don't want charity, and I don't give charity," William said firmly. "But I do respect people who have carried burdens too heavy for too long. Tell me what's happening." Angela hesitated, then words spilled out. The debts, Marcus, the threats. She hadn't intended to say so much, but once the dam cracked, everything rushed through. When she finished, silence filled the line. Finally, William spoke. "Angela, you need to get out of that house. If those men know where Marcus lives, they know where you live. My place in Brookline has security. Stay there until this is sorted out." Her instinct was to refuse, but the memory of Marcus's SUV fishtailing down the driveway silenced her pride. I'll think about it," she whispered. "Don't think too long," William said. "Safety isn't something you bargain with." After she hung up, Angela sat in the kitchen, head in her hands. Danielle found her there an hour later, suitcase already half-packed at her feet. "Ma." Angela looked up, tears streaking her cheeks. "I can't keep doing this, baby. I can't keep saving him while losing us." Danielle dropped to her knees beside her, hugging her tightly. "Then don't. Let's go." The words broke something inside Angela, but in breaking, they also mended. She rose, shoulders heavy but steadier than the night before. By the time Gloria arrived that afternoon, the decision was made. Angela would leave. Not forever, not in hatred, but because sometimes the only way to love someone drowning was to stop letting them pull you under. She placed the envelope from William into her purse, alongside her house keys. For the first time in decades, she wasn't running toward someone else's need. She was running toward her own survival. And as she closed the door behind her, the house felt quieter still, no longer trembling, but empty. The first night in William's Brookline home felt unreal. The house was quiet, surrounded by tall hedges and iron gates. Security cameras blinked at every corner. It was the kind of safety Angela had never known, the kind of silence that wasn't haunted. Still, she couldn't sleep. She lay awake in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, wondering if Marcus had gone back to the house, if he noticed her absence, if he felt abandoned. By morning, the questions had become a weight pressing down on her chest. She rose, walked to the wide kitchen with its marble counters, and found William already there, a newspaper spread across the table, his reading glasses perched low on his nose. "Did you rest?" he asked gently. Angela shook her head. "Resting isn't something I know how to do anymore." He folded the paper. "You will, give yourself time." She wanted to believe him, but even as she sipped the coffee he poured for her, her phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit with Marcus's name. Angela froze. "Answer," William said softly. "Or don't, that's your choice now." Her hand trembled as she picked it up. "Marcus." His voice came through, sharp and frantic. "Where are you? I went by the house. Everything's gone. Your clothes, your suitcase. Did you run off?" Angela steadied her breath. "I left Marcus." "You left?" His voice cracked into disbelief. "You walked out, after everything I told you, after everything that's on the line?" Tears pricked her eyes. "I can't do it anymore, baby. I can't keep saving you." For a moment, silence filled the line. Then came a roar of anger. You're really gonna turn your back on me? On your own son? You think running away will fix this? They'll find you, Mom. They'll find you and Danielle both. Her knees went weak. Marcus, what have you done? But he had already hung up. Angela's hand shook as she set the phone down. William reached across the table, steadying her trembling fingers with his. He's not in control, Angela. Fear is speaking for him now. She pressed her palms together. I don't even know if I recognize him anymore. That afternoon, Gloria came by, her heels clicking against William's polished floors. She looked at Angela with a mixture of worry and approval. So you finally did it. You walked away. I don't feel brave, Angela whispered. You don't need to, Gloria said firmly. You just need to stay alive. She pulled a paper from her briefcase. I filed a protective request in case Marcus or his creditors try to drag you into this legally. And I've got a friend in the police department who says Ruiz's men have been spotted around South Boston, shaking down debtors. This is serious, Angie. They'll come knocking if Marcus doesn't pay. Angela's stomach turned. And if they do, then you let me handle it, Gloria said, her voice steel. But before Angela could respond, the front gate buzzer rang. All three froze. William rose, checked the small screen on the wall. A black SUV idled just outside the gate, its tinted windows reflecting the afternoon sun. William frowned. Do you recognize that car? Angela's heart dropped. Marcus drives one just like it. The intercom crackled and his voice came through, harsh and demanding. Mom, open the gate. Angela pressed a hand to her chest. She felt her breath catch, the familiar fear rising, the same fear Edward's voice used to stir when he came home angry. William looked at her steadily. Do you want to see him? Angela hesitated. Every part of her longed to pull her son inside, to hold him, to tell him it would be all right. But another part remembered Gloria's warning, remembered the weight of Ruiz's name. Yes, she whispered, but not alone. Minutes later, Marcus stood in the grand foyer, his face flushed with fury, his clothes wrinkled, as if he hadn't slept. His eyes darted around the house. So this is where you ran to, a mansion, figures. Angela stood by the stairwell, William and Gloria flanking her. Marcus, please calm down. Calm down, he laughed bitterly. You think hiding behind rich friends and lawyers will make this go away? Ruiz doesn't care where you hide. If I don't pay, they'll come. And when they do, no iron gate will stop them. Gloria stepped forward. That's exactly why she left, Marcus, because you've dragged her into danger she doesn't deserve. Don't talk to me like I'm a criminal, Marcus snapped. Then stop acting like one, Gloria shot back. Angela raised her hands. Enough. Marcus, I love you, but I cannot give you that money. If I do, it won't save you. It'll only buy you more rope to hang yourself with. For a moment, Marcus's face crumbled, the mask slipping. She saw the boy he once was, the boy who used to climb into her lap after nightmares, whispering, "Don't leave me, Mama." But just as quickly, the mask returned. He shook his head, eyes burning. You'll regret this, both of you. And then he was gone, the slam of the door reverberating through the house like thunder. Angela pressed a hand against her chest, her breath ragged. William touched her shoulder gently. You did what you had to do. But Angela could not shake the dread curling in her stomach, because Marcus wasn't just angry, he was desperate. And desperate men did desperate things. The summons arrived a week later, pressed between official seals and stern language. Angela's hands shook as she read it. She was required to testify in court. Marcus had been charged with fraud, identity misuse, and conspiracy with known loan sharks. She stared at the paper until the words blurred. For years she had fought in kitchens, in driveways, in hospital hallways, always in private, always in shadows. Now the battle would move to the open, under the glare of courtroom lights. Gloria accompanied her on the morning of the trial. Danielle, though furious at her brother, insisted on coming too. They sat together on the hard wooden benches, the smell of varnish and old paper heavy in the air. Angela's heart pounded like a drum inside her chest. When the side door opened and Marcus was let in, her breath caught. He wore a gray suit, rumpled and ill-fitting, his wrists shackled. His eyes darted toward her, first pleading, then accusing. She had seen that look before in Edward's eyes, the mixture of need and blame, but on Marcus it felt like a wound she could never bandage. "All rise," the bailiff called. The judge entered, and the trial began. The prosecutor laid out the case with clinical precision. Marcus had taken loans from Ruiz and other known associates, forged documents in his mother's name, and siphoned funds through shell accounts. Bank statements and contracts appeared on the projector screen, cold black ink that painted Angela's son as a criminal. Angela's stomach twisted with every exhibit, every witness who testified against him. She wanted to close her eyes, to pretend this wasn't happening, but the truth was undeniable. Marcus had walked the same path as his father, different crimes, same hunger. When her name was called, her knees nearly buckled. Gloria squeezed her hand before she stood. Danielle whispered, "You can do this, Ma." Angela walked to the stand, palms slick with sweat. She swore the oath, her voice barely audible, then sat facing the courtroom. Across from her, Marcus stared, eyes blazing. The prosecutor approached. "Mrs. Carter, can you tell us about your relationship with the defendant?" Angela inhaled slowly. "Marcus is my son. I raised him after my husband's death." "Would you describe the nature of your financial support for him?" She swallowed. This was the moment, the line she had avoided crossing all her life. "I gave him money, many times, for rent, for business ventures, for debts. I worked overtime, emptied savings, sold what I could. I believed each time it would be the last." "And was it?" "No," Angela whispered. "It never was. Every time I gave, he came back needing more." Her voice broke, but she forced herself to go on. "And when I finally said no, he threatened me. He told me if I didn't give him $300,000, dangerous people would come for us." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Marcus shifted in his seat, jaw tightening. The prosecutor nodded. "Did you believe him?" Angela's eyes filled. "Yes, because I've spent my life believing him, and because I knew his father before him, another man who made promises, who demanded sacrifice, who left me with nothing but bills and broken trust. I thought I could break the pattern by giving, but all I did was teach my son that my love had no boundaries." Her words trembled through the silence, heavy and raw. "Mrs. Carter," the prosecutor asked softly, "why did you finally stop?" Angela looked at Marcus then, really looked. "Because love isn't meant to destroy you. Because I realized if I gave him what he asked, there would be nothing left of me, and maybe nothing left of him either." The prosecutor nodded and stepped back. No further questions. Marcus's lawyer rose for cross-examination, his suit crisp, his expression sharp. He walked slowly, almost casually, as if circling prey. "Mrs. Carter," he began smoothly, "do you consider yourself a good mother?" Angela stiffened. "I tried to be." "Good mothers," the lawyer continued, "don't abandon their sons when they are in trouble. And yet, here you are testifying against yours. Doesn't that make you feel guilty?" Angela's throat tightened, but she lifted her chin. "I carried guilt every day of my life, but being a good mother doesn't mean destroying yourself for your child. It means teaching them responsibility, even when it breaks your heart." The lawyer's smile faltered. "You claim he threatened you, but isn't it convenient that these threats appeared only after the investigation began?" Angela steadied herself. "Convenient? No, tragic and true. My son offered my home, my life, as collateral for his debts. That isn't love. That isn't family. That's desperation." The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "So you want this court to believe you are both victim and hero?" Angela's voice firmed, clear now. "No, I want this court to believe I am human. A woman who loved too much, gave too much, and finally learned to say no." The judge silenced the murmurs spreading through the room. the lawyer sat down, defeated. Angela was dismissed from the stand. When she returned to her seat, her legs trembled. Danielle clutched her hand, whispering, "You did it, Ma. You finally did it." Across the courtroom, Marcus stared at her, his face twisted with fury and pain. For a fleeting second, Angela wondered if he hated her. Then she realized it no longer mattered. For the first time in her life, she had spoken the truth, not just for the court, but for herself. And though her heart was heavy, her spirit felt strangely light. The gavel fell like a stone into water, sending ripples through Angela's chest that would take days to settle. Marcus was found guilty. Fraud, forgery, conspiracy to launder money. The judge's voice was steady, almost detached as he listed the charges. 12 years in prison with the possibility of parole in 4. The numbers hung in the air, heavy and cold. Angela couldn't bring herself to look at her son as the guards moved to lead him away. But she felt his eyes on her, burning with a mix of rage and desperation. She did not return the gaze. For the first time, she chose not to. Outside the courthouse, the autumn wind caught her scarf, tugging it across her shoulders like unseen hands. Danielle walked close beside her, silent until they reached the steps. "You okay?" she asked. Angela nodded, though her throat ached. "No, but I will be." Gloria, who had followed them out, touched Angela's arm. "You did the hardest thing a mother can do. You told the truth. Don't let guilt rewrite that." Angela drew a breath, shaky but deep. I don't know who I am without the burden, without the giving, without the fight." "Maybe," Gloria said softly. "That's the point. You get to find out." 2 days later, Angela returned to the house for the first time since she left. The garden had gone wild without her care. Fallen leaves smothered the roses she had coaxed for years. The driveway was littered with gravel scattered by Marcus's SUV. The house itself loomed like a relic, silent, cold, full of memories that no longer offered comfort. Inside, she moved slowly from room to room. Every corner whispered of the years she had given: Edward's boots by the door, Marcus's trophies still on the shelf, Danielle's childhood drawings faded on the fridge. She touched each one, not with longing, but with release. In her bedroom, she packed a suitcase, not hurriedly this time, but with care. A few clothes, important documents, photographs she chose deliberately. She left behind the heavy furniture, the dishes, the endless reminders of a life lived for others. On the kitchen table, she placed her keys, a symbolic surrender. The house was in Marcus's name anyway, though he would never walk its halls as a free man again. When she stepped outside, William was waiting in his car at the curb. He got out, walking toward her with the ease of someone who knew patience. "Are you ready?" he asked. Angela looked back at the house one last time. "Yes, more ready than I thought I'd be." That evening, in William's Brookline home, Angela unpacked her small suitcase into the guest room drawers. Danielle sat cross-legged on the bed, watching her. "It feels strange," Angela admitted. "Like I'm borrowing a life that isn't mine." Danielle tilted her head. "Maybe it is yours, Ma, or maybe it's the beginning of it." Angela smiled faintly. Her daughter's voice carried a wisdom that cut through her doubts. Later, at dinner, William poured her a glass of wine. "To new beginnings," he said, lifting his glass. Angela hesitated before clinking hers against his. "To endings, too," she added softly. "Because without them, there's no room to start over." They ate in comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't demand performance. For the first time in decades, Angela felt no weight on her shoulders, no urgent clock ticking, no demand pressing in. Just the quiet possibility of tomorrow. That night, as she lay in bed, she reached for her phone. There were messages from Marcus, written before his sentencing, a mix of pleas and threats she hadn't had the strength to read. She deleted them one by one, not with anger, but with finality. Then she texted Gloria a single sentence: "It stops here." She turned off the light. For the first time in years, sleep came easily. Angela didn't know what her future would hold. whether William's presence would become love, whether Danielle would stay close, whether Marcus would ever change. But she did know this. She had walked away from the ashes, and in their place, she had found the faint glow of embers, waiting to ignite something new. Winter settled over Boston with a sharpness that cut through every layer of clothing. Angela walked briskly through the farmer's market, her scarf tucked tight, a basket hooked over her arm. She had never thought she'd find herself here, not as a shopper, but as a seller. Yet there she was, at a booth lined with small jars of preserves, loaves of bread still warm, and embroidered cloths she had sewn by hand. Her fingers, once tired from lifting patience, now danced over threads and dough. Work that had once been survival became craft, and craft became joy. It started small. Danielle suggested she sell the things she had always made quietly at home, the jams from backyard berries, the needlework she stitched to pass sleepless nights. People would love this, Ma, Danielle had insisted. Why not let it love you back? So she tried, and to her surprise, it worked. Customers came, admired, bought, returned, not for pity, but because what she created had value. Angela learned to smile at strangers without apology. Each exchange was a reminder. She was more than someone's mother, more than someone's widow. She was a maker, a woman with her own name, her own worth. It was Gloria, of course, who pushed her further. One evening, as they sipped tea in William's kitchen, Gloria tapped her nails against the mug. "Angie," she said, "you know your story could help other women. Women who have been where you've been, you can't keep it to yourself." Angela shook her head. "I'm no public speaker. I barely got through testifying." Gloria leaned forward, her eyes sharp with conviction. "That's exactly why they'd listen. Because you're real. You're proof that even after decades of being used, a woman can walk away and start again." Angela's chest tightened. "And what would I even call it? A meeting? A group?" Gloria smiled. "A second chance." The name landed with weight and lightness all at once. Angela said it out loud, slowly. Second chance. And so it began. At first, it was just 5 women gathered in the back room of a church. They shared stories of husbands who drained their accounts, sons who stole their savings, brothers who gambled away their inheritance. Angela listened, her heart aching with recognition, and then she spoke, haltingly at first, then with growing strength. "I gave until I had nothing left," and she told them. "I thought that was love, but love without respect isn't love, it's control. And the day I said no was the day I finally began to live." The women nodded, some cried. One reached across the table and squeezed her hand. And in that moment, Angela understood. Her pain had become a lantern, lighting a path for others. By spring, Second Chance had a name, a flyer, a rented community hall. William donated quietly to cover expenses, though Angela made him promise to let her run it her way. Danielle helped design a website, posting meeting times and resources. Angela became, almost by accident, a leader. She spoke at workshops, guided women through paperwork to separate finances from toxic partners, showed them how to build credit, how to believe in their own hands. She used to think her years had been wasted. Now she realized they were the soil from which something strong could grow. One afternoon, after a particularly moving session, Angela walked home along the Charles River. The water shimmered in the low sun. Beside her, Danielle linked arms. "You're different, Ma," Danielle said softly. Angela smiled faintly. "How so?" "You're lighter, you laugh more. I used to worry you'd break under all the weight. Now," Danielle hesitated, then grinned, "now I think you're unstoppable." Angela chuckled, a sound that surprised even herself. "Maybe I am." She stopped at the railing, gazing out at the rippling water. "Funny thing about life," she said. "I thought my story ended the day Edward died, or maybe the day Marcus first asked me for money. But it didn't. It was just beginning again in ways I couldn't see." Danielle rested her head on her mother's shoulder. "Second chances," she whispered. Angela's eyes filled with tears, not of grief this time, but of gratitude. She had walked through fire, and somehow she was still standing. Not just standing, but guiding others out of their own flames. For the first time in 52 years, Angela Carter wasn't only surviving. She was living. The letter arrived on a quiet Tuesday, slipped between electric bills and grocery coupons. The handwriting on the envelope was familiar yet unsteady. Angela sat at her kitchen table, staring at it for a long while before sliding her finger under the flap. "Ma, I don't know if I have the right to call you that anymore. Prison has stripped a lot from me, but mostly it's stripped the lies I used to tell myself. I blamed everyone but me. I blamed Dad, I blamed you. I blamed the system. The truth is, I chose every step that led me here, and I hurt you most of all. The therapist here says writing is part of taking responsibility, so this is me trying. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I see it now, the way you gave, the way I took, the way I became the very thing you fought so hard to protect us from. I'm sorry. I hope one day, when I walk free again, I'll be someone you might want to know, not someone you need to fear. Your son, Marcus." Angela laid the letter down gently. Her eyes burned, but her heart no longer clenched with the old panic. Instead, there was space, room for sadness, for love, for disappointment, even for the faintest trace of hope. She whispered into the quiet room, "I love you, Marcus, but I love me too." And for the first time, those two truths no longer felt like enemies. Life moved forward. Danielle thrived in her graduate program, sometimes helping her mother run the Second Chance group when she was home. William remained a steady presence, not rushing her, not demanding, just offering companionship like a harbor offers safety after a storm. Gloria, fierce as ever, teased Angela about becoming the accidental activist, but beneath the jokes was pride. Angela's days filled with new rhythms, stitching embroidery for craft fairs, baking for neighbors, speaking at events, guiding women who walked into meetings with the same haunted eyes she once carried. Each time she told her story, the shame lessened, replaced by strength. The scars of the past remained, of course. Sometimes she woke from dreams where Marcus was a boy again, asking her to tuck him in. Sometimes she stood in front of the roses in William's garden, remembering the ones she left behind at the old house. But now she let those memories come and go like passing clouds, not storms that drowned her. At 60, Angela Carter was finally living a life of her own choosing, not defined by widowhood, not consumed by motherhood, not trapped by sacrifice. She was Angela, woman, mother, friend, survivor, guide, and most importantly, she was free. To all of you who have followed Angela's journey through these pages, thank you. Stories like hers remind us that even in the darkest of nights, there can be a dawn waiting. May you carry courage into your own lives. May your homes be filled with love that lifts instead of love that drains. And may your families find healing where there has been hurt. From my heart to yours, I wish you health, peace, and the unshakable strength of a happy family.